So with the latest episode of Jujutsu Kaisen detailing Geto's departure from Jujutsu High and his subsequent fall into madness, I have come to see a good amount of people blaming Yuki for Geto's decision to begin his plan to exterminate all non-sorcerers. And honestly, I can see why. I get why most may come to this conclusion, however, I just don't think what Yuki said truly made a difference in Geto's decisions. In today's video, I'll be speaking about why Yuki Tsukumo really did no wrong in saying what she said to Suguru. But before we get into that, I just gotta point out that only 2.7% of my viewers are subscribed. If you enjoy the content, if you like what you see here, consider liking, subscribing, we both win in the end. And with that, let's get into the video. So first, we go all the way back to where Geto and Gojo suffered the loss of Riko Amanai at the hand of Toji in the Time Vessel Association, where Gojo asked Geto if they can slaughter the non-sorcerers who are currently celebrating Riko's death. To which Geto responds that they will not, because there is no meaning behind it. Gojo responds asking if meaning is truly necessary, to which Geto says it's very important, especially for sorcerers. 1 year later, we see that Suguru is visibly exhausted while training with Gojo, saying that Gojo has become the strongest, and due to this, both he and Gojo have been taking on missions alone. He's been isolated from Gojo in the past year, and as it's been a busy summer due to a massive increase of curses, he's been taking on more missions than usual. As Geto exercised more and more, he ingested more curses, describing this as a taste of the cursed spirit that no one else knows, like swallowing a whole cloth that was used to wipe up vomit. Geto experiencing such frustration with his failures, coupled with his isolation, results in him openly acknowledging the ugliness of humanity to himself for the first time, and calling them fucking monkeys. In my opinion, this is where Geto went ahead on that path of no return. The moment that Geto began seeing non-sorcerers as animals that he absolutely despised was the moment where he could no longer be saved. The experience of losing Riko, the mockery of that was made of him, Gojo, and Riko's life at the end of their mission, his isolation from his team, and the endless unbearable consumption of curses all culminate to his breaking point, where he essentially proclaims that he's tired of sacrificing himself for some animals. And at this point, could you honestly blame him for his thoughts going this route? Geto is just very unlucky in a lot of aspects of his life. And had Gojo or Shoko not been his closest friends, but literally anybody else, he likely wouldn't have felt so isolated and wouldn't be taking on solo missions in the first place. If Geto was born with literally any other ability, he wouldn't have been forced to deal with that horrible taste of vomit over and over again that would make him dread taking on missions in the first place. When you really sit down and think about it, Geto again was just very unlucky. We move forward to where Suguru and Haibara were talking about Haibara's upcoming mission, and they're interrupted by Yuki Tsukumo, another special grade sorcerer. And as Yuki introduces herself to Geto, Geto says that she doesn't have the best reputation in Jujutsu High, and Yuki responds to this saying it's more so because her objectives do not align with the school's. That the school only wants to treat the symptoms of the problem, that is the existence of cursed spirits, rather than the cause. Saying that she's not interested in hunting cursed spirits anymore, but instead longs for a world where they don't exist to be hunted in the first place. She explains to Geto that the excess cursed energy leaks from humans. That energy accumulates to form cursed spirits, and due to this, there are two ways of creating a world where cursed spirits are no longer born. She essentially summarizes this lesson to Geto by saying, if all humanity were sorcerers, then no curses would ever be born, thus erasing all the problems that sorcerers have to deal with and sacrifice themselves for in the first place. This causes Geto to have an epiphany, and he himself comes to the conclusion that the way to make all of humanity sorcerers is to erase all of the non-sorcerers in the first place. This makes Yuki glare at Geto, and she actually tells him that it's a decent plan, and that it's the easiest way to go about it as well, explaining that if they were to go on this route, thinning out the population of non-sorcerers would likely force them to awaken Jujutsu techniques as a survival strategy, evolving them the same way that birds gain wings by using a sense of fear and danger. But after explaining this to Geto, she dismisses all of it, saying she's not crazy enough to attempt this in the first place. And honestly, from what I see here, Yuki dismissing this entire hypothesis after saying it'd be the easiest method to achieving her goal honestly tells me that she's never had any intention of going down this path, and is possibly one that she's never even thought of. If Yuki wanted it to be done, at this moment, she easily could have done it, as nobody would really be able to stop Yuki from eradicating humanity if she wanted to. And I'm sure she didn't want Geto to do this either, or she wouldn't have dismissed it as something crazy in front of him in the first place. So back to the talk. Yuki now asks Geto if he happens to hate non-sorcerers, to which Geto responds by saying, "I don't know. He used to feel as if sorcerers existed to protect normal humans, but recently he's been unsure of this. Being unable to separate the preciousness and the ugliness of humans from one another, he looks down on them because of that." Geto's well aware that they should be protected and that humans have as much good as bad, but he just can't bring himself to forgive the bad part about them anymore. This likely being due to what he experienced with Rico. He states that his vision of this marathon of protecting these humans is becoming blurry, and that he's now unsure of what his true feelings are. And Yuki points out to him that it's neither. And the you that looks down on humans and the you who rejects this idea of looking down on them are both possibilities that he's found, and the one he commits to being from now on will define his true feelings. With that, their talk ends, and Yuki goes on her way. This final segment of the talk is Yuki giving Geto clarity of the situation, and treating the cause of his confusion rather than the symptoms by essentially telling Geto to look deep inside of himself, and that he will eventually commit to what his true feelings are when the time comes. And when the time did come, Geto chose the path of eradicating humanity. Nobody made this choice but him. Geto would have ended up challenging the world no matter what happened. Yuki introduces herself to the viewer and the characters as someone who directly solves a problem rather than beating around the bush, and that is essentially what she did here with Geto. Would I say this led to saving Geto or made anything better? Obviously not. But as some may know by watching my previous videos, I don't think that anything could have saved Geto, and honestly, he would have ended up as a curse user no matter what. I've seen some say that Yuki educating Geto at the moment of their talk pushed him to come to the conclusion of eradicating all non-sorcerers, and to that, my response will be, Geto was around 16 or 17 at this point of the series and was still undergoing education at Jujutsu High. What Yuki had explained to Geto was not anything mind-blowing or secretive, and even if it was, are we going to believe that Suguru Geto, the duty-driven, responsible, and intelligent user of cursed spirit manipulation, wouldn't have been able to figure all this out himself at some point? Let's be serious. Geto is no idiot. He took over a cult in like 2 days. I think the worst one can say is that Yuki may have accelerated Geto's downfall into madness, but it was gonna happen no matter what. Geto himself at the end of his life even stated that there was no way he could ever be happy in this world, and I absolutely agree. He was simply too unlucky with the ability he was given, the people that were placed around him, and when it comes down to it, everything worked against him. Geto witnessing Haibara's death led him to clarify his vision of protecting humanity, being nothing but his and his friends' corpses in the future, and following this vision leads him to an unnamed village. With everything the world forced him to face, and his last hurdle being to weigh the innocent of 2 children sorcerers against the greatest evil he's ever witnessed from humanity, these humans torturing these children due to their discrimination towards sorcerers, fate toyed with Suguru one last time, and forced him to take that final step off the deep end. Geto's downfall was bound to happen whether Yuki was present or not. Lastly, I want to point out that the only reason Geto didn't massacre those non-sorcerers when Gojo asked him if they should is because, like he said, there was no meaning in doing so at that very moment, and having a reason to take action is very important as a sorcerer. And when he and Gojo have their fated confrontation before splitting off permanently, he states to Gojo that he's found a meaning in killing non-sorcerers, and that's why he's able to kill them now. The only thing stopping Geto from annihilating every non-sorcerer was not his morals or anything like that, but just the fact that he wasn't as powerful as Satoru was at the moment of their breakup, and that's it. I'm absolutely sure that Geto would have found his reason to slaughter non-sorcerers no matter what, even if there wasn't some noble heroic goal behind it, or really anything like that. In my opinion, Yuki is completely innocent. But then again, this is all just my opinion, although I'm absolutely sure of it. If you agree, disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion about it. I want to see where other people's heads are at when it comes to this topic. And with that, have an amazing day. Thank you for watching, and peace.